Welcome to the Reach Keep podcast. It's good to have you here. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world. My name is Mike Holmes, and today we're talking about Easter sermons and the strategy kind of associated with them. So it is good to have you joining us here on our YouTube channel or on our podcast channel. So thank you very much. We're going to be kind of solving a couple of problems. We're doing the best we can for that. One of the things that comes up with churches, or pastors, I should say more specifically, is that every Easter, and this happens at Christmas as well, they're teaching on some topic that they've already taught on quite a few different times. You've been in the ministry any amount of time, you probably have covered Easter or Christmas multiple times, and sometimes you're looking for fresh content that will help you. And we're going to be going through several sermon series here. I'll cover them in just a second and go through the titles for them, and then we'll get into details and go through some of the graphics and some of that. We're also going to be kind of solving another problem at the same time, and this is the Easter sermon needs to be the beginning, or at least we feel it needs to be the beginning of a series that would help you solve the other problem, and that is getting people to return to your church or come back. Many times on Easter we'll have brand new people that will be showing up, and we want to make sure that we get them back. And so to start a series, just the same way Christianity kind of exploded and started with Easter, we find that we can take a series and kind of whoosh and really help people start to grow and start to mature and begin to disciple them. It's important for people, if they're going to be discipled, they kind of need to be there. You can disciple with a book, and kind of the commodity of a recording or something like that. But the best discipleship is to get people in your presence and be able to talk to them face to face. And one of those things that works so well is an attractive sermon series that people are interested in seeing all the parts of it. They're interested in hearing more. And so we'll go through some of that as we deal with the strategy here behind these Easter sermons. Now we have several different sermons that we're going to go through. I think we have about 22 or 3 altogether that we will be covering, and feel free to use any of these ideas, to copy them down, to take screenshots, whatever you need to do to get hold of these. We don't have the notes in any type of comprehensive condensed format like outlines like sometimes pastors want, because we want to kind of give you more of the big picture. And as you see when we show you some of the graphics and some of that, it would be really difficult to put all of that together. But I want to make sure that I start out just letting you know that these are for you, and we are here to help you. The sermon series, these are all sermons that I have preached here at our church plant, and they've all gone very well. And the series, some of them are shorter, some of them a little bit longer, 6 or 7 in a series, but they're here for you. So we are here to be a blessing to you. So let me just give you the titles of the series, and I'm going to go ahead and open up a visual here. All right. There we go. All right, we're going to cover 4 different series here. The first one is what we call Hope That Happens, and it was just kind of on the whole concept that God is reliable, and we have this true stories of a reliable God in a unreliable world. So that is the first one we have. There's 4 sermons in that one. The next one is what we call Fork in the Road, and this was the idea of kind of making right decisions as you go down the path. There's kind of some old paths, there's kind of some new paths, and you can see the titles there, and we'll go through these in details in a few moments, so you don't need to write any of that down quite yet. The next one is one that was just absolutely fun to preach, and this was a sermon series we called Debunked, and it kind of did this idea of the doubts that are cast in our mind, and then the idea of having faith in the Word of God. And so I'll give you all the details on there, and I'll go through some of the handouts and show you actually some of those things I have. And then the next one is we called Let the Change Begin, and this was one of our series. It was a shorter one, just boom, 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 but it worked out really well. And it was the idea of allowing God, allow God to work in your life and let the change begin. And then I had these four picked out. And then I remembered a series we did that was really kind of one of the most fun ones we did. It was called Ordinary People. And ordinary people, no ordinary day, how normal people and one great day changed the history of the world. And this is how God uses ordinary people and really kind of spoke into the lives. And this graphic looks kind of plain and sort of kid-like, and I'll explain the reason why, because we really took this series and made it church-wide and ran it right down into our children's programs and covered all sorts of different things at that same time. All of these are kind of tied to the idea of being engaged and really kind of engaging your people. And what we do here at Reach Keep, and if you're probably watching this on YouTube, but if not, if you're on a podcast catcher of some sort, go over to, subscribe wherever you happen to be. We appreciate that. We are here to help you in so many ways, the things that we do. We really, and I had these little cards printed up that we use. We do we help people with ideas, we help people with training, and we help them with encouragement. Those are kind of really what when you're involved with Reach Keep, that's what we give you, probably in that order. Hopefully we're encouraging you all the time. But the idea of getting some good ideas, you know your church, you know where you're going. You've got your doctrine and your music and your Bible and all that stuff figured out. Now what you need is some practical ideas, put some meat on the bones type of thing. And so we, at the podcast here, constantly covering practical management, church management type topics, giving you good ideas on everything from volunteer management to, how to get new young families to come into your church, to, how to do church bulletins better, how to do fill in the blank sermon notes, been very popular download here recently. Worker training, we do a lot of worker training. And so we do the ideas, we do the training, and we hope that would be an encouragement to you. I know where you are and I know what it's all about. I'm a church planter. We started from zero out here in Wyoming quite a few years ago, 15 some years ago. And the idea of not really having anybody and anything stable, that was tough. And so I put some of these ideas together, and when these ideas kind of came to me, the things that kind of what happened to me is when I first started going to church as a young person in my 20s. I got saved when I was 20. It wasn't just the sermons that were there, but it was kind of the interaction with the entire church. And is that we got engaged, and we did Bible studies that were tied to the sermon, and there was always discussion going on about what we learned, and the youth group and the singles people always talking about the things of God. And it really was a very engaging church. And I suppose if there's any kind of theme to what we're going through here today, is I want to help you to become that engagement person. I want you to be the engager for the people in your community. The young couples that are there, the single people that are there, the widow and widowers that are there, the people that come, but the rest of their family thinks they're crazy for coming to church all the time. Those people, those folks need encouragement, and they need to dive into into the Word of God. And these sermon series, and starting with Easter, launching with Easter, these are things that can really help you be more of an engaging kind of a person. Now, we have this idea sheet for better engagement. I'll show it to you in more details a little bit later. It's a couple different sheets here, and we got that absolutely free for you. And it's one of our most downloaded things that we have. And so I'll give you the address for that in just a little bit. So, all right, hey, let's just jump into some of these sermons here. This series was called Hope That Happens. And the whole theme of it was the idea of reliability. Okay? Hope is built on this idea that something is reliable. And we want to make sure that we have a reliable God and help we know we have a reliable God. We know that, but we want to introduce that reliable God to our people. And so this was what we called a spring teaching series. And so we kind of launched it that way. And we had this whole idea of we're going to show you how something that's going to happen because God said it was going to happen, and helping people not to just fret and to worry all the time. So there were several sermons in the Hope That Happens, and I've got the notes here, and I wanted to make sure I show you some of our sermon notes here. I don't get them pretty close there for you. I don't give these out. It's not that I wouldn't, and if you want to contact me, I can try to get them to you, but they're kind of clunky, and it'd be hard for you to understand how they work. But this is a fill in the blank note that we do. So every person gets one of these, okay? The inside is kind of typical bulletin-y kind of stuff, but we go through and fill these out and fill out the different things that are here, and we put the answers on a screen, or sometimes I'll say, now in that first blank, make sure that you write the word truth, or whatever it happens to be. So we kind of work it through, because we believe when people write down, they interact with notes. They not only are seeing it, they're not only hearing it, but they're actually touching it, and it's very helpful. So I want to encourage you to, if you go to ReachKeep, our YouTube channel, you can search for it there, but we have some things on how to create fill-in-the-blank sermon notes and why you should have fill-in-the-blank sermon notes. And this particular Hope That Happens one, just like all of our other ones, we got a variety of different ways. The main points of this one was, the first one is that Jesus was reliable, and this was an Easter sermon, and it was just the idea that Jesus, he told his disciples there in Matthew 16 how he was going to go through and suffer many days, and he was going to die, and then he was going to raise the third day. And if Jesus said it and then it happened, that is a remarkable thing, okay, that Jesus would say, I'm going to die and then rise again. Just kind of blows my mind how clear that is. But that's one of those things that Jesus's words are reliable. And went through and made just a bunch of different things, how Jesus told them the truth, how he explained all the truth there, and then how, we actually preached on the resurrection and told the story of the resurrection. And that one worked really well, the idea of there. The second one in that particular series was that we have what we call the testimony of God's men is reliable, okay, the New Testament writers. And we went through and we talked about Luke, and we talked about James, and we talked about Paul and Peter, and all of them, how they mentioned the resurrection and what their relationship was with Jesus, and how the New Testament books then and these writers were reliable. And you can put a hope in it, and because it's going to happen, because what they said is going to happen. And one thing on sermon series too is a lot of times people have sermon series and they just kind of hit there's like 5 topics or whatever, but to bring them all back and to start out every Sunday like, hey, today we're going to be giving you another true story of a reliable God in an unreliable world. And how many of you have ever had someone, be unreliable to you, and they didn't come, or they didn't pick you up, or they didn't call you back? Yes, I've had that happen too. Unreliability is everywhere, but reliability can be found in Jesus Christ. And it can be found, as we talked about last week, in the resurrection when Jesus talked about himself. And it can be found this week as we talk about some of the men that wrote about Jesus and what they said and how reliable that was. And so you kind of tie these all together every week as you do it. So this was a 4-week sermon series. So the second one was on the reliable testimony. The third one there was on the prophecy is reliable. and we went through Isaiah 53 and talked about, because we had just covered the crucifixion, so we kind of had set this up that come on this day and we're going to talk about a prophecy that happened hundreds of years before and just how reliable and how accurate it was. And we went through some of the prophecies of Jesus' death and tied all there to Isaiah 53. And then on the last one, we did one, and we kind of made this a special day too. It's the reliability of the Bible and how the Bible can be so minutely accurate. And we did the prophecies, the whole story of the prophecy of Tyre and Sidon. And if you have never studied that, it is a remarkable thing. And we talked about, all the different fulfillment things that happened and how God is reliable. And when you have a hope in God, that hope is going to happen. Now, there are some people and some things that we hope in, but they don't necessarily pan out. And again, kind of we get into, when you're teaching this, you kind of have to sort of bring the point up over and over. Have you ever been left high and dry by somebody? Have you ever been promised a raise and it never happened? Have you ever had, someone in your family promise something to you and it didn't happen? Have you ever, and you'd go through that kind of stuff. And then you say, but Jesus is reliable. God's word is reliable. God's men are reliable. And the prophecies of the Old Testament are reliable. So this was a 4-week series called Hope That Happens. And it was just a real fun series to do. Again, kind of going through, especially these couple prophecies that we had. The second sermon series that I have for you is one called Fork in the Road. And this is a developmental series, okay? So this is something that is kind of, we chose this one because we want to help people to mature in their spiritual life. And so got the same thing. Some of these notes are old and crinkly because I've had them around for a long time. And you can see our sermon notes are a little bit different. We don't just have a normal kind of fill in the blank. There are lots of different ways that you can do notes. We have A, B, C's, and D's, and blanks, and draw lines, and, all sorts of different things that we have on there. We often have a little box at the end and say, this is the most important thing. See that little box at the end? In just a moment, we're going to fill out that box. You don't want to miss what goes in that box, and you kind of draw it out that way. So make your sermon notes, a little bit more flexible. Actually, I don't know, flexible, but change them up a little bit so they're not just, for God so loved the world, okay? And you think that just them penciling in one word is going to keep them interested. You want to kind of draw them into these particular things. Oftentimes, and if you have a lot of new believers like we have in our church, you'll need to do a lot of review. And so you can put your review in your sermon notes because not everybody makes it to church every Sunday. And so this sort of expands and makes it where you're really kind of bringing people, catching them back up, and then everybody is on the same page. You've probably seen a television show or movie or something where they kind of say, in the last episode, here's what happened. And they kind of give a couple of short clips of that. So we do a little review. We did a review of the Easter story here and just went A, B, C, D, E, F, G, kind of went through some of those things where they just filled in one little blank. And so you can do that kind of thing. On this particular one, we started out with, and if you're looking at the screen here, I'll put this up again so you can see this, the Fork in the Road. It has all the series that are there. Easter was actually the week before, okay? It was on the 27th that year. And we did the road to Emmaus, and we talked about being on the road and, how those guys developed on the road and how they learned. And there were some, powerful things that happened for them while they were on there. Then we moved into this, come next week, because we're going to be talking about, some of these choices that you make. And you can see kind of the title. Every one of these titles has the word choice in it. Because people are making choices every day, they need to learn how to be develop. People have immediate needs, okay? They need to learn how to choose right and wrong, and they need to learn how to handle a situation they've been kind of thrown into that wasn't their fault. And so we want to make sure that we take care and we cover some of those immediate needs and then move those into longer term spiritual needs. If you recall in the New Testament, there's so many times when Jesus had a guy that, his arm was, messed up, or he was blind, or he had leprosy or whatever, and he took care of those immediate needs, and then from there, there was some spiritual development that came in their life too. So these all deal with the idea of choosing to live forward, okay, how to plan your life successfully. We dealt with some scriptures and some of the verse-by-verse things, how to be financially free, how to be relationally healthy, how to be morally pure, how to be family-focused, how to be career-balanced, all that. We kind of went through some stuff, making choices so that you go the right direction, and how God can help you in every one of those areas. And if you have new believers, they're like, I didn't know God could help me with my, finances and my education and my workplace. I mean, workplace is one of the biggest tensions we have, and teaching people how to live there and apply the Word of God into their workplace is good. So we connected them and helped them to kind of make decisions as they move forward. Okay. The next one was how to make choices when they're alone. In other words, you've been kind of abandoned and you're not really moving the right direction because there's nothing going on in your life. And we think of all the different reasons in life that people are often alone. And many people suffer with loneliness. Some of them truly have it. Some of them just suffer it. But the idea of helping people when they are alone. Okay, so we went through some of that. When choices are made for you, this is, in other words, living on a path that's out of your control. And you'd be surprised how many people resonate with this thought. The idea of they have a job and they got to keep it because of insurance or whatever, but they can't stand their workplace. They're living in a house that they can't stand, or they're not comfortable with what's going on. We have people, you probably have people in your church too, they come, but the rest of their family doesn't come and thinks that they're somewhat, loopy for coming to church all the time and that type of stuff. So these people, choices are being made for them and how to handle some of those things. Okay, we use Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 for that. Was really good one. Clouded choices, in other words, avoiding the pitfalls on the path of temptation. And we dealt specifically with temptation. In fact, one of the things that you probably want to do every once in a while is do a survey amongst your people of what they would like to hear Bible solutions for. Okay, so we use the connection card concept, and you can learn more about that at on our website. I'll put the address up here for connection cards. But on a connection card, everybody turns one in, and oftentimes you can put on there, what are some topics that you really need to know what the Bible says something about? And one of those that will come up all the time, temptation, the idea of fighting temptation. Our people are tempted in so many ways, and we need to take time to really work with them and help them to yield not to temptation, give them some strength to do that. So that was the fifth sermon in that one, I think. And then the last one was just kind of the idea of the fool, okay? How to finish the race well and not finish it wounded, and teaching them straight out of the book of Proverbs how to make wise choices and how you can make foolish choices. I mean, we showed the contrast, and people have done foolish. Yeah, okay, we don't want to go that way. We want to go this way. Here's how to do this. And of course, many of these end with what we would call a gospel invitation, or some type of plan of salvation there. So helping people to make those kind of wise choices. So this is a great series, and if you want to use this, we use the Fork in the Road pathway pictures here, and there are many. If you go, and by the way, if you're looking for really good art, and you want to find free art that you can use, high-res art to put on your screen, go to unsplash.com. It's just the word un and then splash, unsplash.com. And almost everything on there is absolutely free. There's another one called Pexels, Pexels, P-E-X, not pixels, but Pexels. And both of those have a huge amount of free art that you can download, and you don't have to have any royalties and pay all the money for it, and that kind of stuff. So that is the fork in the road one, and you're going to like that one. The next one we did is Debunked. Okay, now this one was fun, and we enjoyed this one a lot. And you can probably tell by our flyer here, we printed up cards that had this on there. These were kind of like a taller 4x6 card and had exactly what you see on your screen on there. And the debunked things were real good. Here's one of the handouts again. It's got some of the boxes you kind of fill out, and some questions and take-home questions and some of that we go with. By the way, okay. Every one of our sermons and on our notes, when we get ready to finish these, at the bottom we put a little tiny sentence of like, don't forget next week we're going to be talking about, did Jesus stay dead? Okay, everybody that has died has stayed dead. Jesus didn't stay dead, and we're going to be talking about that, and you're going to not want to miss that service. Okay, so we put a little advertisement. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but we put a little thing there that invited them next week, to make sure that you come for this. So you can see the titles right there. These were just a lot of just real fun things to preach on. The Easter is a myth. We went through some of the things that the resurrection, affected, regular people. It totally affected the region. It totally changed mankind, and, went through the changing of the calendar and the expansion of Christianity, and just letting people know some of the things that they just probably didn't know, but they knew kind of the idea of our calendars changed, with, the year and all that stuff with going back to Jesus's, being here on the earth, and how Christianity just exploded with the resurrection, and the growth that was there. And if you're a believer in church growth, which I am, I mean, it's the idea of reaching more people, reaching the neighborhood, reaching the cousins, reaching the coworkers. We want to reach them all. You just find the book of Acts is just, all sorts of expansion of some of that. So we dealt with the idea of Easter affected everything, okay? The next week we covered a couple of apologetic type things that were dealing with, did Jesus stay dead? And it's like, did he just pass out in the tomb, or did the disciples steal the body? And there's a lot of great materials out there on that. And a lot of people have just never have thought about those things. And we found that these sermons on apologetics are just very, very exciting. People love that kind of stuff. So a lot of resurrection proofs. With the last, or the one we did there, the purple one, if you're looking at the thing, the Bible is a fable. Okay, and each of these, we kind of made the title sort of the provocative thing, if you see it. And by the way, nothing wrong with being a little provocative. When you kind of say those things hard, it makes people kind of wake up, okay, and then you explain what's going on. So Easter is a myth, I stood up and said, all right, folks, next week we're going to talk about Easter is a myth. And it's like, whoop. And people stop playing with their phone and looking in their hymn book or whatever, set up, It's like, whoa, yeah. So, yeah, we're going to debunk that theory. Jesus stayed dead. The Bible is a fable, okay? God flunked science was the one we did after that. The Bible is a fable. You can trust your Bible. Again, we went through some fulfilled prophecy. The idea of helping people grab hold of the Bible is really true book, okay, because all the prophecy was there. The God flunked science one, We dealt with a bunch of scientific type of evidence that was in the Bible, and there's a variety of different things that you can do, and primarily dealing with sort of evolution. We did talk about I remember the verse, the life of the flesh is in the blood, and we talked about the guy that discovered how important blood was, and the Bible had said that years ago. So we kind of hit some of those apologetic type of things that were there. And then the last one we did was a whole thing on Noah's Ark. And Noah is a joke. And, a lot of people don't believe Noah's Ark. They don't think about it at all. But in the way that we do is the promise of God and all these miraculous things. But we went through, and there's ample evidence for you to teach on this. And again, the reason that we teach these sermons this way, and I want you to get this, is because this engages people and gives them proof, and it gives them tools for when they're out in the world. The world is filled with people that believe all these things, and we need to debunk those, and we need to have people that stand for the Bible is true, and Jesus did raise from the dead, and Noah is a joke, and that kind of stuff. We need to make sure that we have some ammunition for our people. You're giving your people tools, so you are going to be the person that is giving someone these tools. Okay, you are going, and they're going to, I never forget when my pastor told me all this stuff and taught me these things, and they're going to be great warriors for the Lord because you gave them the sword, you gave them the spear, you gave them the shield, you gave them the things that they need to defend themselves. Okay, so all of that's why we do a sermon series like this that really meets the needs of the people. This is the idea of being a developer. As a pastor, sometimes we view ourselves as just sort of like the preacher, the talker, and we marry and bury people. But you're really a developer of people, where you're going to take time and take people from A to B and move them through. And you can do this with these Sunday morning sermon series like this. So that was just a great one. Let me give you another one here. This was Let the Change Begin. And this was probably one of the most unique sermon series that we did. Let me grab my notes here for it. And it was unique because, and I was kind of going through the notes here, I looked at it, and I said, Let the Change Begin, Easter services, August 16th. And I was like, August 16th? I must have the date wrong. It must be a typo or whatever. And then I looked at the year, and it said 2020. Now, I don't know what you did, but in 2020, our world had some chaos. And where we were at, our church was actually shut down for only 5 weeks. We were actually served papers by our local chief of police. He came, and they were from the county attorney, and they told us we couldn't have more than 10 people in a room. And we just really figured we didn't want to be someone that bucked it, in the sense that we were getting arrested and all that kind of stuff. We didn't want to be seen as careless. We wanted to be seen as careful. And we thought it was just for a few weeks, and it only turned out to be 5 for us. But we just did the parking lot church thing. And it worked great. We put up a little FM transmitter that a guy rigged up, and we preached inside, and everybody was outside. But they all still came to church. And afterwards, they all got out of their cars and talked to each other. We went out there. We went out and served coffee, donuts. We took the offering. We did everything in the parking lot. We even had some folks get saved. It was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So this was a unique sermon series. It's only 3 weeks. We did kind of a short one because it bumped up into some sermon series we'd already had planned that were tied into a big church in the park kind of thing on Labor Day, and then into the fall, kind of back to school stuff. So Let the Change Begin was the title of it. We dealt with the idea, the Easter message portion of it was Christianity changed everything. All right. It just, and again, kind of like what we covered a few years before, although that sermon was probably 5 years before, but it's the idea that Christianity started this remarkable explosion of this new religion, quote unquote, not really religion, but you know what I'm saying. and how it just took off, and did a lot of statistics about how Christianity changed absolutely everything. Okay, it can changed everything. It can change me. It can change my circle. It can change every part of my life. So that was a really fun one. Let the change begin. The second one is Jesus can change my mind, and we talked about how Jesus came into this world to save people, but he indwells us, and we kind of got into the idea of the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, and like Christ be in you, the hope of glory, and he's going to battle your anger and your lust and your depression and your greed, and that you can win the battle. Okay, you can be changed. Okay, and we can be redirected through obedience, and that was just a good one as well. And then the last one in Let the Change Begin is right here, and this was the idea that Jesus can change my pathway, all right, and all the different things that he's going to do. He's going to change your friends, and he's going to change all the different things that you do, the decisions you make. He's going to change your future, and your future is going to be different, and it's going to be because Jesus is changing things. Okay, he is a quick change artist, I guess you would call him, in a sense. So those are all the sermons there. You can kind of see some of those, and again, some big boxes and just some different ways that we do we change up the sermon notes. So that was a good one. The last one here, and this one was really kind of very different, is what we call Ordinary People. And you see sort of a black and white, sort of has these funny little graphics on it. But we wanted to do something really different this year, and we wanted to make sure that we let people know that God, you didn't have to go to seminary, you didn't have to, wear a collar backwards, you didn't have to, do all that kind of stuff, but God would use ordinary people. Okay, so the theme on Easter was ordinary people, no ordinary day. All right, so it's sort of we kind of jumped the Easter thing there, and then we jumped into the bunch of different things. Now, different people that God had used, and I'll go through them in a minute. The reason we had this graphic this way, though, the Ordinary People graphic, is because we wanted to really impact our community in a different way. So we decided to have, and I know some of my ideas are crazy, okay, but we decided to have an Easter party. An Easter party, okay, you don't think of birthday parties, but an Easter, Easter party. We wanted to do an Easter party for the children of our community. So we rented, on a Sunday afternoon, we rented a building in our community, the big community center, and we did all sorts of posters and stuff and put it out and said how we are going to explain how Easter is for children. And we're going to explain how children can get to heaven. And we weren't quite sure what we would get. Now, we put some graphics together. Let me grab these here. Okay, you can kind of see the poster there, and I'll show it to you in more detail here. But we printed some smaller cards. This is kind of a 4-up. There would be 4 of them here. And that says Easter services. And then this is the Easter party for kid one. And it has an egg on it. And I know some people hate the egg thing. But we wanted this because what we did with that flyer and the one that you're looking at there is we took all these things and had them printed like 4 weeks ahead of time. And we took them over to our Sunday school. And during our Sunday school time, all the kids colored these pages. So they took colored markers and filled in No Ordinary Day, and they filled in the little people there and filled them all in. And then we printed up hundreds of these cards, the Easter Party for Kid cards. We had those all printed up, and we had people color the eggs and all sorts of different stuff. So then we handed those out then to the people and said, you hand these out. So what was unique about it is that every single flyer and every single card that we handed out was hand-colored and totally different. And I don't know what it is about when you do something like that. Boy, it just builds excitement. And again, this is engagement. This is getting people engaged in this kind of stuff. And I want to encourage you to be thinking about more than just, the 30 or 40 minutes of, speaking Bible verses to people, what we would normally call preaching. I want you to expand on that a little bit and talk about, I want to change these people. I want to change my community. I want to engage, and I want to see a total different thing than what was here before I came. And I think the idea of us being world changers, being community changers, being people changers is tremendously valid, and we need to make sure that we do that. So the Ordinary People one, not only did it have all these hand-colored flyers that we did, okay, but we took this particular page right here, and let me go to it a little bit bigger here for you, all right, because I have it right here. No, I don't. Okay. That's just a second. Here we go. There it is. All right. Here is the flyer. No ordinary people, no ordinary day. And by the way, here's a secret too I want you to catch. This says all community Easter services. And of course, these are all colored in different colors. When you are putting out promotional stuff in your community, people kind of think in denominations, okay? So if they're Mormon, they go to Mormon church, Baptists go to Baptist church, Catholics go over to that church. But there's a whole bunch of people that don't go anywhere. And they might have done something years ago, but they've drifted away. And you want to bring them into your church. A lot of people don't think they can go to that church because they're not a member of that church, and they don't want to be in there. So what we learned is we put on almost all our things, especially the Easter thing, that it is the all community Easter service. And when we do any type of ads or talk to anybody, we say, everybody can come. This is the Easter service for the entire community. And people are like, oh, good. I thought that was just for Baptists. Okay. Oh, good. I've always wanted to go to something like that. So poof, they come. So you broaden out the invitation, all community Easter services. And we put our Easter services here. This particular year, we did a Saturday night service, we did a Sunday morning service, we did another Sunday morning service, and we did a Sunday afternoon service. And all these things were colored really nice. But I also took this entire graphic here, okay, and I took it down to one of those print shops that can expand it onto paper like this big and like that tall. And so we had this exact same flyer, but it was like 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And we took those, had all those colored, and then posted them in the front of our auditorium so people knew 3 weeks ahead of time that Ordinary People was coming up, the series we called it, Ordinary People, and it was going to be no ordinary day. And you need to grab your flyers, you need to grab your little cards and get them colored, and let's go hand these things out, and let's invite some people, and let's make a difference in our community. Did it cost a little bit to print those? Yeah, but we just did it on the chintziest paper because they were hanging in the front of our auditorium. So they were $20-25 a piece, maybe, something like that. But it was something that made a huge difference. All of this is engagement, and all of this engagement is going to come back. You've heard that term, come back to haunt you, okay? This is not going to come back to haunt you. This is going to come back to bless you. People are going to say, man, that was the day. That at that church, when you had all those color and things, or when you did that Easter thing for the kids in the afternoon, that's the day that I decided to get right with God. That's the day I came to know Christ as my Savior. That's the Easter that I got baptized. That's the, whatever. But when you make extra efforts, you get to change people. You get to be the tool that changes them. And I'm so glad that I had a church that believed in this type of thing, that they were there to change their community, to impact their community. And I want you to grab hold of that as well, to be a community changer, to be someone that is going to just make, that huge, huge difference. So Ordinary People, here, I didn't tell you what we did here is we talked about different people that were ordinary and how God used them. And we started out, of course, with the, excuse me, we started out with the book of Acts, and it was the people that, were changed by God, okay? And Peter and James and the temple and, all the different things that happened there. So we kind of went through an entire sermon on just the people that were changed from the resurrection and did a big overview of the, probably the first 10 chapters of the book of Acts, okay? Then we covered Noah and how God used just an ordinary guy to change his world. We dealt with Daniel, how Daniel was the influence in his community. So these are entire sermons on one person, and not the book of Daniel, but just all about Daniel and how he made the impact. We did David, we did Job, and then we ended ordinary people with whose many heroes is the Apostle Paul, how God just took a guy and had him bring the gospel to Europe. And we kind of did a little bit of sort of a history trace, and because of that ordinary guy that was surrendered to God, brought the gospel to Europe, the gospel came across into America. It came across the West to where we live, and we are here because of an ordinary person that believed in one amazing, unordinary day, no ordinary day, and God did some wonderful, wonderful things. So there you have. Those are the 5 sermons. Help yourself to them. Do whatever you want. If you would like this particular sheet on better engagement, I'll put the address on the screen. Let me show it to you a little bit more detail here. I'll go back to this one. The better engagement sheet. We talk about what is engagement, why create engagement, when should I engage. This idea of when you engage is that you want to take your church services and stretch them out. You want to engage people before church. You want to engage people after church. You want to have as long as you can, to keep that hang time around and keep things moving into people's life. What are some engagement ideas? So we got a whole bunch of those, some hands-on stuff. And then we got kind of a little bare minimum checklist here that you can go through. But all of this is yours absolutely free. Just go there to reachkeep.com/engagement, the reachkeep.com/engagement. Put in your email, and poof, it will just show up on your computer just like that, okay? So we're so glad that you're able to be with us here. Hopefully these have been good ideas to help you develop your Easter sermons and your Easter strategy, which really includes a series which helps you to develop people. So we're here to develop people. If this has been helpful to you, we would appreciate you taking time to do what we've talked about before, and that is just kind of make sure that you are going to subscribing there on YouTube and subscribe on your thing. And I think I mentioned this in our last podcast. I'm just amazed. YouTube sends out some statistics from time to time to everybody that kind of works in their system. And we have had so many people sharing our stuff. So you can hit the little share button, and then that moves it. You can post it on Facebook. You can email it. You can copy the link and send it to your Sunday school teachers, or send it to your pastor or your assistants or whoever that you need to send it to. So we are just super duper grateful that you are with us today and have been with us. And again, if this has been helpful, hit one of those buttons there, the share or the subscribe thing, and we will stay in touch. So this is Mike at the Reach Keep podcast, and I'm glad that you made it with us today. And make sure you stay tuned with us. We got a lot of really good stuff coming up in the future. Make sure you catch some of our shorts that we've been putting out on the local church, and we're here for you. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. God bless you, and we will see you next time here at reachkeep.com.